The Twitter account of Deputy President William Ruto has been extremely busy in recent days. Indeed, his political strategy and approach to things seems to have changed overnight. Because before he has been very cool, but now he's coming with both barrels of his guns firing and just stopping short of naming names. When criticizing his so-called enemies, political enemies and opponents. So what has changed? I'm sure most of us already know. It was the Ipsos poll which ranked Deputy President William Ruto as the most corrupt leader in Kenya. Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru came in a close second. Now there's a very interesting Swahili expression that I love, because it's very expressive. And it is kuchokoza nyuki. Translation, to provoke the bees. Kusema ukweli, hii poll ya Ipsos imechokoza nyuki kweli. This Ipsos poll has really provoked the bees. Now, we have even had supporters of DP William Ruto coming out and saying that those who sponsored this particular poll, that painted the deputy president in a poor light, must be revealed. Naturally, they would have not said something like that without knowing exactly who sponsored that poll. Now we're going to find out exactly who did that, as well as analyze a lot of other very fascinating things surrounding this latest development in Kenyan politics. And we shall do that immediately after the brief, very important upcoming message. Don't go away.
Msije mkasifu watu ambao hamwafahamu sawa sawa. Au wote na wafahamu sawa. Wote yule wa mwenye Ruto zaidi ya mimi bwana. Nani? Nilikuwa kuna chama cha URP kiliundwa wapi ndani ya boardroom yangu. Nilikuwa mikutano yote ya URP ilifanya kwenye boardroom yangu mwenyewe Nairobi. Nilikuwa kuzunguka Kenya nzima au wote waliozunguka bwana. Huyo ile ndagomba maji mimi na mwakorene ndani. Kwa hivyo usije ukasifu zaidi kwa huyo afaa kwa rais kwa sababu ulifanya hiki na hiki na hiki. La. Urais ni utaratibu wa kwa wewe ni mtendakazi sawa sawa. Nilikuwa nao katika cabinet wote hao na ni mmoja tu aliachishwa kazi kwa udhaifu, unyonge wa utenda kazi. Fanya utafiti, mmoja kati ya hao waliotaja aling'olewa wadhifa wa uwaziri kwa sababu ya udhaifu wa utenda kazi. Hafai kuwa waziri, akaondolewa. Nenda kufanya utafiti.
Welcome back. Now it's very important that first of all we examine the history of opinion polls, political opinion polls in our country, Kenya. Actually, they have a very bad name. Indeed, when you consider the past of these opinion polls in Kenya, they leave a bad taste in your mouth. Because the truth is, the chief objective of opinion polls in Kenya has been to rig elections. Yes. And we have to note that only last August, in the run-up to the last elections, DP William Ruto was right at the forefront promoting these opinion polls. In retrospect, we now know why. It was in preparation for fiddling with the 2017 presidential elections. Political opinion polls were first brought to the limelight by President Daniel Arap Moi's think tank. 1992. Moi was under siege. All the other communities in the country, save his own, had ganged up against him. Even the international community and most donors wanted Moi to go. The pressure was so intense that Moi was forced to eat humble pie, and do something he had sworn never to do. And that is to reintroduce multi-party democracy into Kenya. And as if that was not enough, Moi was now forced to go into an election for the first time in his long political career. Before 1992, the former president had never, ever been involved in a competitive election. As the member representing the vast Rift Valley in the Leg Corps in the 50s, Moi had no competition. 3 years after independence, Moi became the vice president, and it was unthinkable in Rift Valley for anybody to oppose the vice president for a parliamentary seat. And then he ascended into the presidency after the death of Kenya's first president, Jomo Kenyatta. So it was plain sailing for him. He had never been involved in competitive politics. I very vividly remember my political lecturer emphasizing this point as we excitedly waited to go into the 1992 general elections, where we were all sure, including my political lecturer, of course, that we were going to vote Moi out. Now, of course, Moi's campaigns started with very consistent opinion polls. And in those opinion polls, Moi always had a very comfortable lead. Now, if you want to cheat or con an African, it's very simple. Just introduce the word scientific. An African sees a study that bananas are harmful to the health. So somebody says, no, bananas can never be harmful to the health. How? And then the African is told, this study was scientific. And that is the end of the argument. Hii kitu ilikuwa scientific. And so the fake, cooked opinion polls that showed Moi consistently leading were taken very seriously by Kenyans. Why? Because they were scientific. Now, I'm not a scientist, However, I'm a student of human nature. I have been most of my adult life, because it just fascinates me. And one thing I can tell you for sure, immediately you introduce human nature, into something scientific, you put science under pressure. No matter how precise and accurate your science is, immediately human nature comes into play. Your science is in a bit of trouble. Let me give you a very recent example. In the run-up to the last presidential elections in the United States, all polls showed that Hillary Clinton would have a comfortable win. A vast majority of the polls showed that Hillary would win. Therefore, everybody expected that Hillary Clinton was the next president of the United States. The few polls which showed that actually Trump would win were laughed off. People ignored them. People dismissed them. And I can imagine if those people are Africans, they'd have been told, hii kitu ni scientific bwana. Science can never be wrong. Well, you know what happened? Human nature interfered with science. Human nature rubbished science. Yeah? And the way it happened, I'm sure most of you know, is that a vast majority of Trump voters were ashamed to admit that they were going to vote for Trump. Anyway, since 1992, opinion polls have consistently been used in Kenya in readiness to rig a presidential election. It is very telling to note that in the run-up to the 2002 presidential elections, opinion polls were very visibly absent. It's very instructive that to date, those are the only genuine, free, fair, and verifiable presidential elections we have ever had in our country, Kenya. And opinion polls were conspicuously absent. So, in my view, DP Ruto has a point. And while he has this point, he's also reporting himself. He is telling us that the latest Ipsos poll was sponsored and had political motives. Exactly like the opinion polls he himself, DP Ruto, and the Jubilee Party sponsored in the run-up to the 2017 presidential elections, which very consistently showed a comfortable lead for President Uhuru Kenyatta. Of course, there was nothing wrong with the scientific opinion polls then, But now that DP William Ruto is on the receiving end, of course there's something wrong with them. Now, you can cook, and skew, an opinion poll to say what you want it to say, which is what happened in the run-up to the 2017 presidential polls. However, you can also do an opinion poll knowing very well what kind of results you're going to get, genuinely and scientifically. And of course, you're doing all this, you're spending all your good money, with a political objective in mind, which is exactly what happened in this latest Ipsos poll that DP William Ruto is complaining about. The difference being, the one the deputy president was involved in last year was fake, However, this one that is complaining about and calling fake is genuine. Any close observer of Kenyan politics will tell you that this is precisely the perception of the Kenyan people. The perception. Perceptions do not necessarily have to be factual. They're just perceptions, what people believe, it's what people think. Now, in my view, this was a master stroke in finishing off the political career of DP William Ruto. Because taking into consideration our political environment right now and recent developments, this is something DP William Ruto can never recover from. This perception of being the most corrupt. Impossible to recover from, according to me. Because the only way to recover from this is to change the ground rules. Completely change the ground rules. So that corruption and a corrupt past, become no longer important in Kenyan politics. Now, that is not possible, because the cup of corruption is full, it's overflowing. Kenyans are no longer interested in development because they have realized that without fighting corruption, there can be no development. Or the development you get will only be a fraction of what you should get because of corruption. In my view, things are so bad that if you know the public have a perception of you being corrupt, don't waste your money going into the polls in 2022. Save your money for the legal battles that are sure to come. And it doesn't matter whether you're vying for a parliamentary seat or you want to be governor, it doesn't matter. That corruption wave is unstoppable right across East Africa. I believe that DP William Ruto realizes this, hence his reaction, hence the panic, in so many tweets, so many statements, etc., etc. Now, in the next episode of this series, we shall go a little deeper into this, and we'll also try and predict what is most likely going to happen next. You know the usual drill. Wait for the link at the top left-hand corner. As soon as that video is ready, you'll be able to click right through to it. I'm hoping to see you there. This is Chris Kumekucha.